We are going to resume open session. It is 6:37. Okay, I'm going to report on closed session before we do the pledge. In a 3-0 vote, the board approved stipulated expulsion case 22-23-8. In a 3-0 vote, the board approved stipulation expulsion case number 22-23-9. In a 3-0 vote, the board approved OAH case number 2022-06-0766. And finally, in a 3-0 vote, the board approved the denial of liability claim from Holly Canavero Rocha against the Amador County Unified School District. Before I proceed, I would like to acknowledge that we are without Jim Whitaker and James Marzano today. We also are missing Lori. So filling in for board clerk is Kayla Parker. And filling in for Lori, we have Haley. Is it Maciel or Maciel? Maciel. Thank you. Okay, so resuming our business, number 7, Tori, do we have any deletions or corrections to the agenda?
We do, and this is in your updates too. Hold on one second. So we have two. We have item number 12.3C was added, and per the Brand Act, we are allowed to add that because it was already agendized. It's overnight field trips, and it's Amador FFA to attend the conference, the overnight conference. And then item number 14.10B and 14.13, if approved, will be pending ratification from the bargaining unit. Usually we prefer that everything is ratified prior to. There was just some glitches in communication, so it's already on here. We don't want to hold these items up. Amy can assure us that it'll probably most likely ratify, otherwise we would pull them, and so we feel confident in leaving them on the board agenda. But usually we prefer that they ratify first, but we're going to leave it. So I just want you to know if you approve those, they are pending ratification. That's it.
Thank you, Tori. So now we're going to have the
Pledge.
We're going to have the pledge.
Right? Yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now for the fun part of the evening, we have presentations and recognitions. First up, we have Jackson Elementary and Mrs. Gravette.
While she's on her way up here, I do have one other correction. I apologize. Because we put transportation on here, this week is what is called Love the Bus Week, which is Transportation Appreciation Week. We opted to flip-flop, and the special ed department just didn't get taken off here, so they'll come back at a later meeting for that, because we do 2 each month. So just so you know, I'll add that to the updates as well.
So no special ed?
So no special ed tonight,
Okay.
yeah, because of transportation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Gravette.
Thank you. Board members, Superintendent Gibson, and Cabinet, thank you so much for having me here tonight. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nicole Gravette, and I am the proud principal of Jackson Elementary School. Some of you may not be familiar with Jackson Elementary, so let me take just a quick moment to highlight some of the wonderful things about this gem of a school. Jackson has amazing students, staff, and parents. Our parent organization, Just App, is fantastic and supports students and staff regularly, as well as the community by hosting events such as our annual Fall Festival. Our students are the best. Kind, supportive, and inclusive are all descriptive terms that come to mind when I think of them. Now for our staff. This is my first year as principal at Jackson Elementary, and the staff have welcomed and supported me from day one. They are a true family, and it has been my privilege to work alongside each and every one of them. I wish that I was able to present them all with a coin for everything they have worked through with me this year. It is rare to work with a staff that is so supportive, kind, and flexible. I could honestly go on and on singing their praises, but tonight I'm here to honor a few members who have been absolutely instrumental in the success of this school year. I could not imagine Jackson Elementary School without them. I apologize in advance because I saved my coins up to present here at the board meeting because I know how much my staff love being in the spotlight. So the staff members that I will be recognizing today embody every aspect of being authentic, courageous, fun. They build meaningful relationships with others, and they have integrity. So the first person I would like to recognize for their dedication to leadership behind the scenes at Jackson Elementary is Dan Clement. If Dan can come up. Now you can stand up here. Dan is a fifth grade teacher at Jackson. He is calm, collected voice of reason that will support kids and staff in any way possible. Throughout this school year, Dan Clement has worked tirelessly to support students, mentor 2 new teachers, and guide a new administrator. Mr. Clement creates fun, engaging activities that challenge his students, like the very cool wax museum he does each year. His students prepare by researching a character in history, create a costume and script that they memorize to say to observers as they wander through the museum. Activities like this are not necessary part of teaching, but to teachers like Mr. Clement, these experiences are important. Thank you for all that you do. The next person I would like to recognize for their continuous dedication to the success of Jackson Elementary's students, staff, and parents is Lisa Barwig. Lisa teaches 2nd grade and is always willing to be an advocate for students, staff, and families. She's always thinking of new ways to better the experience at Jackson Elementary for all who are there. She is a smiling face that all kids love seeing on a daily basis. She's always willing to help support a student no matter what, and I appreciate her leadership behind the scenes and her dedication to the betterment of the school as a whole. The next person I would like to recognize is Chris Garcia. Chris is one of our 4th grade teachers, and he's been described by students as they're walking down the hall as the best teacher ever. He's fun, authentic, and builds relationships with students, staff, and parents effortlessly. He's always willing to help. He's happy to provide feedback on what's working and what isn't. He's honest, flexible, and supportive, and he also has the fantastic job of being one of my teachers in charge, which I know he loves. So thank you, Chris. The next person I would like to recognize is Sherry Casagrande. Sherry teaches 3rd grade. She makes sure the staff take time to build relationships by helping to plan gatherings. She also makes sure to bring that same joy to her class every single day. Her kids are happy, learning, and embracing everything that 3rd grade has to offer. If you were able to see her class's rendition of The Grinch That Stole Christmas, it was a masterpiece. Those are the types of learning experiences our kids remember. They memorized scripts, created a set from scratch, and designed their own costumes. Each student took part, and they were so proud of their work. She's one of the backbones that keeps Jackson Elementary moving forward in a positive way. Thank you, Sherry, for being the joy and laughter at our school. The next person I'd like to recognize is Sarah Crow. Sarah is basically the foundation of our special education program at Jackson Elementary. She teaches our 4th and 5th grade moderate severe class, and she is able to seamlessly create inclusive experiences for all her students. And she's one of the most creative people I've had the pleasure of working with. She is a constant support for students, staff, and families. Her warm, welcoming personality touches all who have worked with her, no matter what capacity. She treats everyone with respect, works hard to build each and every person up to reach their full potential. Her students are genuinely excited to see her every single day. Thank you, Sarah, for all that you do to create the most well-rounded environment for our students at Jackson Elementary. Next, I'd like to recognize Kelly Ward. Kelly is one of my RTI teachers, and she is probably one of the most flexible people ever. She is always quietly stepping in to help with whatever someone needs. She is passionate about her craft and works tirelessly to support students and staff. She offers advice and feedback that is extremely student-centered and forward-thinking. You will see Kelly out doing morning supervision every morning, not because she has to, but because that's who she is. She's talking and laughing with students, and they naturally gravitate toward her. She is genuine and kind. Kelly is often pulled from her intervention position to help cover classes, and she never complains. She always has a positive attitude and does what is needed for the betterment of the school as a whole. Thank you for all that you do. My last person could not be here tonight, but I still want to recognize her. She is probably going to not talk to me for a week because she hates being recognized, but here I go. Jana Whitlock, my administrative assistant, is Jackson Elementary School. Those of you who know Jana know what I mean by that statement. Jana supports students all day, from feeding them, I wasn't gonna get emotional, but to mending their bumps and bruises, to providing words of encouragement and ice, lots and lots of ice. She knows every kid and every family. She tirelessly supports them with anything that they might need, supplies, guidance, to also filling those candy jars for staff every day. She is absolutely the hardest working person I have ever had the privilege of working with. No one can keep up with her when it comes to working. She does more for Jackson than I could ever say in the short amount of time I have up here. On a personal note, for any of you that have ever been an administrator on a site, you know how important your admin assistant is. And to be honest, I could not have transitioned to Jackson Elementary School without her. She guides, she provides laughter, and candy. She's kept me grounded and has taught me about the school climate. I know that training a new administrator was quite a feat for her, but I can't thank her enough for showing me what it means to be part of Jackson Elementary School. So thank you, because I know she's watching. It takes a village to educate our kids, and I can't think of, these amazing people are a huge part of our village at Jackson Elementary, so thank you.
If we could have all of you, Nikki included, please come over to Haley back here so she can take a group photo. That would be fantastic.
So next we have Mr. Bracco from the Transportation Department.
As Mr. Bracco is making his way up here, I would also like to congratulate Mr. Bracco. Tonight, the board will be approving him moving from the interim director of transportation to the formal, full-time, full-fledged director of transportation. So I know the transportation department is very excited to have him on board. He's been here since, when did I call you? September? And he's just done a remarkable job in that department. I know that his staff is so excited to have him. So welcome, Mr. Bracco.
Thank you. Welcome, hello, board members and cabinet. What an honor it is to be here tonight to share with you 4 of my VIPs. When I think of transportation, yes, they're bus drivers, but in my eyes, they're educational leaders. And the impact that our bus drivers have each and every day on our students. There's not enough words to say. As you know, our bus drivers are the first adults that our students see when they come out of their home each and every day. And the impact that these 4 fantastic gentlemen have made in our students' lives, you know, I just can't say enough about them. And I want to bring them, can I bring them all up at once? Can I do that?
You do you. This is your time.
Man, this is fantastic.
You do whatever you want.
You know, I grew
stand
up
up there
playing
longer,
baseball, and I'm going to use my little baseball analogy tonight. So, in baseball, if you're not familiar, there are 9 positions, right? And then you have your batters, and so we got our leadoff hitter. His name is Elias Chavez. Elias, can you come up, please? Elias Chavez has been with us for a little over 8 years now. He is a gentleman that comes to work each and every day. He's not only a leadoff hitter for us, he is Mr. Consistency. You think of Cal Ripken Jr. that played 2,000-something games, never injured. Mr. Elias comes to work each and every day. Because of your dedication, Elias, I appreciate you, and I thank you.
Doesn't Elias also drive, Mr. Bracco? Doesn't Elias also drive upcountry?
He does.
Yeah, so he actually drives the bus that goes as far up into the snow. And if you've ever seen somebody, if you've ever been up there, probably not, but I've seen him and he doesn't know it, driving a 12-ton bus in snow, it is magical. I am in awe every time I've seen him do it. So I just had to put that little plug out there.
Thank you. Second up to bat is our contact hitter, Mr. Tony Russ. Though in baseball, the contact hitter is somebody that's going to put the ball in play, yes, Tony, what he does, he brings to the game, he will jump on really any route on any given day. He is, I guess, also known as our utility player, right? But Tony never complains. It doesn't matter if it's a special ed route, a regular route, whether it's down in Ione, up country. He is just willing to do the job each and every day, just as long as he has his turn-by-turns. So, Tony, for your dedication, I thank you, sir. And then our third hole, Mr. Manny Onacito. Did I say that right? No. Good enough? All right. Manny's been with us for about 3 years now, and he drives a special ed route out of county to Sacramento, right? To Sacramento. And his students are probably some of the most, I want to say, the ones that give us the biggest opportunity to impact, right, based on their behaviors, right? Most recently, Manny had a situation on his bus, and I mean, quite honestly, I think 9 out of 10 people would have lost it. Manny stayed calm. His demeanor was calm, his voice was calm. He calmed the child down. So think of a child at a level 10, taking them back to 1. Manny, you did it flawlessly, and you did it exceptionally well. Thank you.
If we're talking about baseball, I just have to say, you were wearing Giant socks, but these are A's colors.
These are my A's colors. All right. Last but not least, our cleanup hitter, Dave Camden. So our first 3 hitters were bus drivers, our educational providers. Mr. Dave Camden's our technician, one of 3. Dave's been with us for about 10 years. He came from us from my own, running his own business for 20.
I've been here since April.
Oh, April, I'm sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
Okay, since
I'm-
April, almost a year.
Self-employed for 20.
Self-employed for 20, came to the district 10 months ago. He, like the others, comes to work dedicated, does the job, asks, what can I do next? Even though our shop keeps him busy with lots of work, he's always looking to do things different and better than what we've done. He questions the status quo, why we do things, and he comes to us with solutions. So for your visionary and your exemplary work, I thank you, Dave. In closing, I probably have about 30-something other people that are just as dedicated as these gentlemen, and I look forward to bringing them forward to you in the future. So thank you so much. Thank you.
If all of you could make your way to the back to have your photo taken with Haley, thank you.
Thank you so much for those presentations. It really is one of the highlights of the evening. Number 10, employee organizations. For ACTA, Mr. Hunkins, did you want to make a statement?
I think we need to videotape bus drivers driving buses in the snow. So I think that'd be a really cool thing to show people about what the amazing things they have to go through every day just to get our kids to school. So
Well, especially if you've seen that hill at Pioneer School. Yeah, and
it's a
he's
little
got it
steep.
controlled.
Yeah, that's
pretty-
amazing.
It's
And
pretty
those-
awesome.
And I was here last time, they talked about the tech department and the grounds, and we're so lucky to have those types of people with us that just make our life better. And so today I wanted to use a few minutes to tell you about 2 amazing teachers. There was a medical situation at a school in our district last week where a person went down after hours, and without batting an eye, we had 2 teachers who jumped in and made that person, helped that person make it through the day. And those are not always things that happen. Those are things that are tough, but they didn't bat an eye, and one of them helped the person breathe. It wasn't CPR, but they made sure they were doing what they needed to do to keep them there till the ambulance showed up. And so I think you have to realize that Chris Fenton and Kevin Harlow are amazing men, not just amazing teachers, but amazing men who every day I find new things out about teachers I represent, and I go, it's amazing. These people are, when I talked to them about it, it was like, well, that's what you're supposed to do. So I just wanted to share that with you because we have amazing people in here across the board. And like I said last time, we're pretty lucky to be where we are. So I just wanted to share that with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hunkins. And for CSEA, Ms. Martz?
So I said I didn't have anything to say when I got here, but you guys always bring something out. And I just am always blown away by the presentations, and it's just so heartwarming to see everybody being honored in such a way. What a great thing transportation's doing. And I just want to say thank you to all the classified that are being honored tonight for the transportation department. Also, I just wanted to mention, because we had those 2 agenda items that you're going to discuss them tonight and vote on them, and then I'll have my members ratify them later, and we usually do it the other way around. But I just wanted to thank you for doing that so it doesn't hold it up, and we'll have a better agenda next time. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Before we move on to public comment, I just would like to acknowledge that we have with us tonight doing the broadcast for us, KVGC. We're very grateful for their professional services. Hopefully we won't have any more hiccups with our broadcasts in terms of our meetings and making sure that folks are able to observe them. Thank you very much. Okay, public comment. I don't see any cards. Okay, so we don't have any public comment. We're going to move on to the consent agenda. Does anyone have any questions or comments on items on the consent agenda? Okay, on the consent agenda, we have normal things like minutes, warrants, overnight field trip requests, out-of-state conferences, surplus, donations, and current personnel recommendations. So if we have no questions or comments, can I get a motion to approve?
I'll motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Preston. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Shane. So for the roll call vote, we'll do the advisory vote first. Preston?
Aye.
Thank you. Maeve? Aye. Thank you. Shane?
Yes.
Thank you. And Kayla?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. That's a unanimous approval. Item 13, communications.
We don't have any at this time.
Okay. And moving on to discussion action items, we have 14.1, a public hearing approving an increase in statutory level 1 school fees imposed on new residential and commercial industrial construction. Presentation by Mr. Critchfield.
Yes, this is just a public hearing on the next item. So if you could just open the public hearing for comment, and then we'll move on.
Okay. So we're going to declare the public hearing open. Does anybody have any public comment? No? Okay, so I'm going to close the public hearing. And we're going to move on to number 2, resolution for the developer fee justification study. Mr. Critchfield.
Yes, thank you. So we have representation here from Koppel and Gruber. We went through a developer fee justification study. This is something that has not been done in the district in a few years to allow the district the opportunity to increase the school fees that we impose on residential and commercial property for building permits. So I'm going to turn the time over to them to introduce themselves and take you through the work that they completed for us.
Good evening. Thank you for the introduction. Good evening, board members. My name is Doug Floyd. I'm representing the firm Koppel and Gruber Public Finance. I also have with me Lynn Gruber of Koppel and Gruber Public Finance. And we're just gonna go through and give you an overview of what the developer fees are and why this is being presented to you this evening, and then answer any questions that you may have. So we can get the presentation up. Okay, go to the next slide. Okay, so what are developer fees? As was introduced, these are fees that school districts are authorized to charge on new, and I emphasize new, residential and commercial construction. And the purpose of the fees are to offset, at least in part, the impact of those projects on school facilities. The revenues can then be used to provide for the construction and reconstruction of school facilities, interim facilities, central and support facilities. And when we talk about school facility financing, we often use the analogy of a three-legged stool, with each leg of the stool representing a separate source of funding. Developer fees represent one of the legs of the stool, with the other funding mechanisms, local bonds, or state funding. Next slide, please. This item specifically relates to level 1 fees. These serve as the base statutory fees that school districts can charge on new construction. The fees are capped, meaning there's a ceiling of how much school districts throughout the state can charge. And that is set under state law, and the state can adjust those fee caps every other year and even numbered years to adjust for inflation. The state last adjusted the fee caps in February of last year, and they moved the rates to $4.79 per square foot for new residential construction and 78 cents for new commercial industrial construction. In order for the district to increase the fees, the district must go through the process of demonstrating the need for the fee increase through a fee justification study, and that's the document that we help the district prepare. It's part of the board packet, and it has been available for a public review since January 26th, which is the requirement under state law that it's available for at least 10 days prior to this meeting. Next slide. This is good, sorry. This fee justification study must demonstrate that the district meets certain nexus requirements. Those are outlined in the slide, and they include that, I'm gonna kind of skip around, but the district must identify the purpose of the fee, that there's a relationship between the fee use and the new development projects that are subject to the fee, and primarily, and we call this the reasonable relationship test, that there's a reasonable relationship between the fee amount charged and the cost of providing facilities as generated as an impact from those new development projects. And then the state law also provides for the cost of those fees can be reasonably related to projects to refurbish existing facilities to maintain an existing level of service, or to achieve an adopted level of service that is consistent with an adopted plan. And we think that the 2022 facilities utilization master plan that was approved by the board last year really documents a lot of those nexus requirements and findings. Next slide. So under state law, in order to satisfy what I call the reasonable relationship test, districts must do the following. They must project the number of new homes expected in the district. There must be a projection of students generated from those new homes, and there must be an estimate of the cost to provide facilities as a result of those students. So what we've done, and I'll go into the numbers that pertain to the district, is looked at those projections and those cost impacts, and the question is whether or not those cost impacts are equal to or exceed the fee cap imposed by the state. So the fee cap is at $4.79 per square foot. If the cost of providing facilities is equal to or exceeding that amount, then the district is justified in collecting that rate. So next slide, please. based on the fee justification study and the findings that we've made, we first looked at a student enrollment projection. So this is just a projection from new housing. We reviewed city plans, county plans, and also information from the state, and also looked at individual development projects that are currently active. And we project that there will be approximately 550 homes developed, and we say 10 years, but it's hard to estimate when those will actually absorb. From those units, we project 210 students from those homes. And then based on the cost estimates for new construction and reconstruction of facilities, as well as other items, we estimate that the cost to provide a seat for those students, and this is shown in the slide, range from $28,500 for elementary to $20,459 for middle, and $28,164 per seat for high school. So when we apply those projected students to those numbers, the cost impact overall is expected to be $5.6 million. And then what we do is we take that and distill it down to a cost impact per square foot, which is $5.05. So as you can see, the cost impact exceeds the fee cap imposed by the state, and the district is therefore justified in imposing that fee. Next slide. For commercial fees, the impacts are more indirect, and so we look to the state legislation and statutes for guidance. They do provide recommendations on how to evaluate the impacts, and really the nexus is that new commercial and new industrial centers will generate employment. Those employment opportunities will generate a need for housing. You also have, from new commercial and industrial projects, inter-districts that are coming in as parents go to work and are bringing students from other school district boundaries into the district, and that creates a cost impact. Because it's first a cost impact for new housing, and new housing will be charged the residential fee, we actually do a residential offset to that, and then whatever the net cost impact is, that's how we evaluate whether or not the district can charge the full amount of commercial fees. And this is done on various categories that are provided by the state. And so you'll see on the next slide, these are the cost impacts for the different types of commercial industrial categories. You'll see that not all of these categories justify the fee to the full amount. So the full fee cap is 78 cents per square foot. You see, for example, banks, because of those cost impacts, really you're limited to charging 63 cents on banks, 34 on community shopping centers, etc. And then next slide. This just provides the legal process for bringing this forth to the board. So we commenced the preparation of the fee justification study back in November. So as you can see, it takes quite a while to prepare these studies. This has to be a noticed meeting. So we sent or had the district publish notices in the local newspapers. And then it brings us to tonight's board meeting, where you just held the public hearing. If the board decides to adopt the fee increase, those new fee rates would become effective 60 days later, or by April 10th of 2023. And that's it. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yes, I have a question. When was the last time the fees were increased? Do you have any idea?
I believe it was 2014. I believe yeah.
Okay.
So to give you an idea of what goes into developer fees, back in December, the board approved our annual developer fee report. So in 2021-22, the district brought in $1.7 million in revenue in developer fees. To put that in perspective on how to account for student growth, a single classroom now costs in the neighborhood of about $600,000 to $900,000 for one single classroom. So when you look at growth and saying, well, 1.7 million seems like a lot, it still doesn't go that far when you're having to deal with more students. And as they showed in the study, the impact of the projected increase in students actually costs more than what we would be able to collect in developer fees if this higher rate is approved.
Do most other neighboring school districts charge this same fee, or the state cap? Is that pretty normal?
Very normal, yeah. I mean, I don't have a count, but I can't think of a district that doesn't charge developer fees. I mean, it's just, everybody does it.
Yeah, and it's often evaluated. There's a law around when you can, and most districts move forward every chance they can to increase. And ACUSD has not done that, so we're a little behind the times.
Expect to see this every couple years now.
Yeah, I want to say it's 2 years, right?
It is, every 2 years, every even numbered year they can increase.
That's
The
what I
state can increase based on inflation.
Correct.
I appreciate having Doug here. He did a good job of being succinct in his presentation, so it may shortchange the amount of work that they actually did that goes into a report like this. Again, the full report is in your packet, and the justification study. And then what's needed of the board tonight is to adopt the resolution that's part of this item that would then enact those timelines that Doug explained so that the district is able to increase our developer fee.
I'm sorry, I have one more question. Does this justification study, is that shared with the planning department as far as the importance in regard into collecting these fees?
We do. We share all of this with the planning department, including we have to properly notice them of the fee rate increase. And I do have to say, just as a side note, Amador County Planning Department has been really good to work with these last few years. They have helped us in respect to how we collect the fees. When I first started in the business office, the majority of developer fees had to be paid at the district office. So now you have people pulling a building permit, they pay their fees here. No one likes to pay fees. Then they come over to the district office and have to pay more fees and then go back to the building department to finalize their permit. And now the overwhelming majority of developer fees, the county building department and planning department actually collect them for us. And then each month we reconcile. And it saves both of us time, but they've been great to work with in that respect.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we don't have any further questions, we can entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
I will motion to approve item 14.2 developer fee justification study resolution.
Thank you, Kayla. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Maeve. Roll call vote for the advisory vote. Preston?
Yes.
Thank you. Maeve?
Yes.
Thank you. Shane?
Yes.
Thank you. Kayla?
Yes.
Thank you. And I'm also a yes. So we have a unanimous vote. Item 14.3.
Thank you, Doug, Lynn, and Mimi Dean for being here. And
Thank you. 14.3, Governor's Proposals for the 2023-24 State Budget. Discussion only. Mr. Critchfield.
yes, this is definitely discussion only. If we've learned anything, the governor's January budget proposals are just that, they're proposals and they can change. But it's a good opportunity to have some conversation tonight about what the governor is currently projecting for the 23-24 fiscal year. This is commonplace. Every January, the governor will put out his budget proposals and lay that out. And now we will run into months of political jockeying on what is most important and how money should be spent across the state. Obviously, education makes up a large portion of the state budget. It has to make up a certain amount by law, but then there's also more money that can be put into education beyond that. And so various programs and grants and how LCFF will be funded moving forward, is the base enough? All of those conversations happen every single year. And so the governor put forth his proposals. We'll have these next few months of the political jockeying, as I say, and then in May, the governor will put out his May revision, and typically that gets us a lot closer, hopefully pretty accurate to what we'll see with the enacted budget, and then the budget does not have to be enacted until July. It does pose challenges for school districts because the education code requires that we adopt our budget by the end of June. And so we actually adopt a budget based on the May revision, not on the enacted budget. And so this is just an opportunity to walk the board through through a little bit of this presentation. I put more in here than what I'm going to review tonight. You know, there's like 34 slides, and I'm not Ed Services, so we're gonna skip over a few of these.
Is that a dig?
It is. I have fun with Sean and I have fun about our presentations. So, okay, so if you have, there's School Services of California does a great job of synthesizing all of this information when it comes to a budget. And so you have some attachments there as resources that I'll talk about as we go throughout. There's a pocket budget, which is a good summary. There's an overall education budget summary, which is a little bit longer of a read. And then there's the dartboard, and I'll talk a little bit more about the dartboard in a few minutes. And then I also have this PowerPoint presentation that was included in your packet. And so Proposition 98 is what drives education funding in the state of California, and based on a variety of tests, it is determined, and I will not get into the nitty-gritty of this tonight, exactly how much of the state budget is allocated to education. And so in this upcoming year, while they are projecting, I'm gonna do my best to explain this because it, on the surface, it seems backwards. They are projecting that the overall state budget will decrease, yet the COLA projected for education is 8.13% increase, okay? So there are two main factors that go into this. One is state enrollment is declining. So the overall impact on education per student can go up without the money going up proportionately because there are fewer students to spend the money on. Now, if you're in a district that's declining enrollment, that's not good news. If you're in a district like ours, which is increasing in enrollment, this is great news. Because, you know, on a side note, it's actually good for us to have the state enrollment going down and our enrollment going up, because then we get a higher share of that money. And so that's something we keep a close eye on. They also put a lot of one-time monies into education over the last couple of years, whether it be COVID relief funds, arts, music education, learning recovery block grant money, lots of different things. And so in the projection for next year, there are no new one-time funds, but they've taken a portion of that state budget that had been the last couple of years going into one-time funds, and they're putting it towards the ongoing money. And so then that way, even though the overall state budget is actually decreasing, they're projecting that 8.13% COLA. So if you go to slide 9 on the 5th page of this document, you can kind of see just an overall look at the billions of dollars.
Which document are you looking at?
So I'm in the PowerPoint presentation. It's titled, it should be the first attachment to 2023 Governor's Budget Proposals. Presentation is the name of the document.
And which slide did you want us to go to?
Slide 9, so on page 5.
Thank you.
So you can see the amount of money being put into the statutory COLA. There are some slides here on the equity multiplier. I'm not going to talk about that tonight in fear of making too many editorial comments because we're not getting any of that money. So I will not explain it because we're not projected to receive any of those funds in the equity multiplier. On slide 10, it also lays out what's going on with the COLA, our unduplicated pupil percentage, grade span adjustment, and then supplemental and concentration grant. So this is an opportunity with this slide and the next one to just give a quick overview on how we're funded. The overwhelming majority of our funding comes through the local control funding formula. That is based on how many students attend school on average. It's not based on our enrollment. Our enrollment obviously is a factor, but you have probably heard the term ADA over and over again. That's average daily attendance. So while we have a little bit over 4,000 students in the district, our average daily attendance is about 3,800. So we do not get funded based on 4,000 students, even though we educate 4,000. We are funded on the average daily attendance, which is 3,800. So on this slide 11, this breaks down a large portion of the dartboard document that I referenced that's also in your packet. And so it shows how each grade span, there are now 5 different grade spans that are allotted different dollar amounts. And so when you break up your attendance, you then break it up on the average daily attendance for each of those grade spans, and then multiply that average daily attendance by this. So every transitional kindergarten student next year is valued at $9,166 plus another $745 for the 8.13 COLA. And then they do what's called a grade span adjustment and a new transitional kindergarten add-on, so that it adds up to almost $14,000 per transitional kindergarten student. Now, a lot of this money has strings attached to it, because one of the rules is you cannot exceed a class average of 24-1 in TK by school. So because of the size of our elementary schools, 5 of our 6 elementary schools only have 1 class with TK students. If it's a TKK combo, you still have to have a 24 average by school. If there's only 1 classroom in a school, it's not an average, it's a cap. Okay? And so we are capped at 24 students in our TK classes at 5 of our schools. The 6th school, Ione Elementary, has 2 TK classes. You're essentially capped at 24 as well. I mean, you could do 25 in one, but you would have to have 23 in the other to average 24. And so 24 is essentially a cap. We also have adult to student ratios in TK, where you are required to have at least 1 adult for every 12 students. So for transitional kindergarten, we have a transitional kindergarten aide and a teacher. You can have 2 teachers, but that's not how we do it. And so they're looking at the adult to student ratio. Now they're still sorting out. What they were wanting to do next year was have a 10-to-1 ratio with that 24 cap, and we were really trying hard not to be sarcastic with the state on how 24 does not divide evenly by 10. You can't have 2.4 adults in a room, so you either have to have 2 or 3. And so it looks like they're leaning back towards the 12-to-1. If they do the 10-to-1, then that means if we have a TK class at 24 students, we'll be required to have 3 adults in the room, which would probably look like a second aide. So we would have 1 teacher and 2 instructional aides, okay? And so that's TK. We still have our kindergartners through our 3rd graders. They also get a grade span adjustment. They fall under the 24-to-1 as well. So base funding is $9,911. We get an extra $1,031 per kindergarten through 3rd grader if we keep the class averages from kindergarten through 3rd grade by school at or below 24-to-1. Okay, and we've been doing that for years now, and we have a whole system in place with our elementary school principals on how we monitor that. We update it every single month to ensure that our overall, our average at each school is at or below 24-to-1, so that we get that extra $1,000. The state assumes you're going to follow it, so you get that $1,000 as part of your regular apportionment, and then the next year when you're audited, if you didn't meet it, then they take the money back. So it's one of those things you definitely want to keep in line with, because you've technically already spent the money by the time they would say you're out of compliance. And so we're on top of that. And then there's only one other grade span adjustment that's made, and that's in the 9th through 12th grade. There's an extra $312 per student to the base funding for each of those students, and that's in recognition of electives and CTE courses that do cost more money at the high school level. And so you can see just across the board, if you go to the 3rd line from the bottom, that 2023-24 adjusted base grant per ADA, that is the dollar amount allotted for each one of those grade spans. So $13,984 for TK, And then those other grade spans, as you can see, going up to 12,317 for our high schoolers, okay? Then you'll notice right below that, 20% supplemental grant and 65% concentration grant. This is how our LCAP number is derived, okay? So then you take your ADA, you multiply it by the percentage of your students that are referred to as unduplicated pupils. So our socioeconomically disadvantaged students, foster and homeless youth, English learners, okay, all the students in those categories, they're referred to as unduplicated because if a single student qualifies in more than one category, you still only count that student one time. So you take that percentage and then you get 20% of the base. So that number works out into Sean's $3.some-odd million LCAP, $3.3 million LCAP. And so we look at that each year as well. And so that will get, his LCAP number will get updated next year based on these new formulas. So if the base goes up, the LCAP is a percentage of the base. So if the base goes up, then that means the LCAP number will go up subsequently, okay? Any questions on that? That was a lot of information. Okay. And so as you can see, if we consolidate this down into one simple formula, which it's not that simple, but it gives us an estimate on that next slide, 12. We are anticipating, if you put all those different grade spans together and create an average based on the number of students, about $12,500 per student. Our ADA is projected to be a little bit over $3,800 next year, which would equate to $47.85 million in LCFF revenue is the current projection for 23-24, okay? And then the next slide shows you the projected out years and some other things that are projected, which, to be honest, when you're projecting out to 2026, 27, good luck on being accurate with that financially. I also put in a slide, even though this is not a county meeting, on the county operations grant, just to point out the lack of acknowledgement for single school district counties. The main funding sources are based on two factors. The first one being how many students attend school in the entire county. It's a pretty easy formula because it's the same as the district. However, the dollar amount per student is drastically lower for county offices than it is for districts. They're not funded at a district level. They're not running all the schools in a traditional county. And so you'll see if you're a district of 1 to 30,000, you're funded $109 per ADA, okay? But then you also receive funding for every district that resides in your county. So that's projected to be $346,000. So in Amador County, we get to multiply that number by 1. If you're in Stanislaus County, you get to multiply that number by 22 because they have 22 school districts. And so again, this is a challenge as a county office because our funding has been quite flat for a while because of the factors in being a single district county. So that's just a little aside on the county. I'm not going to talk a lot about the equity multiplier, slide 16. But you'll notice the map on which counties and districts qualify, and you'll notice that nice gray area covering Amador and the surrounding counties that do not qualify for the equity multiplier. And then we have our employer contribution rates to our employee retirement systems. This is a good historical document going back to 2013, just 10 years ago. The district paid 8.25% on each certificated employee's salary to go to the state teachers retirement system. The district is now, this year, paying 19.1%. And you can see the historical growth over the last 10 years on how it's gone up and up. At this point in time, they are projecting over the next 3 years for that 19.1% to remain that amount and not continuously increasing. And we hope, I never thought I'd be happy about 19.1%, but we hope it stays at that. Now, on the other hand, if you go to slide 18, CalPERS is not projecting such a cap. So on our classified employees, we currently pay 25.37% towards their retirement, and it is projected to actually, originally in the projection, it was projected to go down. Now they've flipped it, and it's projected to be 27% next year, 28.1 the following year, and 28.8. I want to make sure I'm clear, this is not a slight on any of our employees. They have nothing to do with this, okay? But ever since the Great Recession, both CalSTRS and CalPERS had what was referred to as an astronomically large unfunded liability, where if everybody in the system retired all at once, they actually would not have enough money to fund everyone's retirements. Obviously, that's a problem. And so as part of the solution coming out of the Great Recession, they increased the employer rates quite dramatically to get these retirement funds up right side up. We want our employees to be able to retire. But on the flip side, we also wish that these retirement funds had been managed a little bit better so that we did not have to take on such a burden towards these funds. Okay, moving on. Couple other things to point out. On slide 22, there was in the current year budget, the Arts, Music, and Instructional Material Block Grant. That program was cut by almost 2/3, and that's a mid-year cut. Now, fortunately for us, while we have plans on how to spend it, we are currently working our way through other one-time funds and have spent little to no money that we've received in this block grant. So while the cut is unfortunate, we do not have to scramble in taking back some of the things we were planning on doing this year, because we still have some COVID relief funds that we're spending out and some other learning recovery monies. And then we were going to move on to looking at spending these funds. And so that's one of the cuts that was made to help the ongoing money moving forward into next year. And then you can see in slide 23 how the state projection on enrollment loss in California yet, but that is not a projection of Amador County, as we are continuing to project moderate to slight growth in the county. They've continued to bolster up the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program. And so as you know, we now offer our extended learning program at all 6 of our elementary schools. Michelle Pichette is doing a fantastic job in running that program. We are receiving more money than we've ever received in that program, and this is a build-up to next year, which we will do a lot of communication to push this out, where all free and reduced lunch students will be eligible for free extended learning programs starting next year, okay? And so that is the string attached to this money. We are anticipating that the money we are going to receive for this will actually be a little bit more than what it will to pay for ELP for all of our free and reduced lunch kids. So this is a great program. Sometimes they put mandates on us and they don't provide the money to back it up. This is one of those where they are providing the money to back it up. And so this is a great opportunity for kids. So even at some of our smaller schools that may not have a large ELP group right now, we're okay, because we've been provided the funds to do that. And you know, for the 6 or 7 families in Pioneer, it's a big deal to them that they're able to keep their kids at Pioneer Elementary School for ELP, and we hope to expand this program even more moving into next year. Okay, moving on. They are looking at another increase to special education funding on the federal side. That is just a very preliminary projection. Based on any projection we've seen in special ed, it is still safe to say that special ed is still grossly underfunded. And we hope that more change will happen, but it seems like while there's a lot of recognition that special ed is underfunded, what's actually happening with special ed funding is still not caught up to the need. And so that's something we'll continue to monitor closely. But again, looks like an increase, but still not enough to properly fund special education. And I am happy to answer any questions you might have about the budget.
Thank you, Jared.
You're welcome.
It's always with a grain of salt this early.
It is.
Okay, if no one has any questions, I'm going to move on. Item 14.4, review and approval of consolidated high school campus expansion plan and preliminary cost estimate at Argonaut High School. Mr. Critchfield.
Yes, so as we discussed at our last board meeting, we have been working since the bond did not pass in November on a revised master plan for the Argonaut High School campus to be able to consolidate. And so there are numerous attachments in this agenda item because we wanted to show you the architectural concepts and plans for everything that we plan on doing at the high school. So again, it's scaled down from what was put forth in the bond. I do want to say something about those bond projects. Tori and I are very stubborn. We're not going to give up on passing a bond in this community. And so the plans that we're setting forth here do not interfere with the potential buildings and projects that we laid out in the bond. We have ensured that those areas of the property remain as they are. And so if in the future we are able to pass a bond, we can still move forward with those plans. So those plans were not all for naught. We hope to use them someday. So having said that, the main construction project that will need to happen on that campus is a 2-story, 10-classroom building. On that first attachment, I numbered the attachments. Hopefully that will help. So I'm on attachment number 1, which is just an overall site review. You will see in the little bit darker blue, the 2-story building. It's tucked between, if you're familiar with the campus, it's tucked between Trillia and the row of portables that Trillia looks across at, and going towards the science and culinary building. We will put in 4 science labs. We need them desperately to be able to have enough science classes for all of our high schoolers. And so science classrooms take up more square footage. And so you can see in attachment number 2 lays out a little bit more of the floor plan of that 2-story building. So you'll see that there will be 4 science labs on the main floor, and then upstairs, that's enough room for 6 just regular classrooms. Those 6 classrooms are still healthy in size. They're 1,000 square feet each. Most of our classrooms in the district are in the neighborhood of 700 to 900 square feet, so 1,000 is nice. And then those science classrooms, if you include the storage area for equipment and chemicals, they make up about 1,400 square feet per science lab, which is great. And so they're very similar in plan and design to what we had in the bond. I would like to note that's the one big change from the bond. If you remember, the large building we were going to put at the front of campus had 4 science labs. So if we ever do that large building at the front of campus, we're not going to do another 4 science labs. We have a few different ideas on what we would do with that building in the future. And then you can just see on these you get some like views of the side elevation of the building, the roofing and all that, if that's something that interests you. We also have a few other things that need to be done on this campus to be ready for 1,250 to 1,300 high schoolers. We will do a locker room renovation in the gymnasium. And so this has become a common type of renovation at high schools, as we know that students typically do not use the showers that were designed. And so we would be using up that square footage to add more lockers to create the capacity for athletic and PE lockers in the current locker room. So we're not expanding any walls or anything or the size of that building, but we're going to utilize more of the square footage within that building to create larger locker room areas so that it can accommodate all of our athletes and all of our physical education students. We also recognize that we will more than double the number of meals that are going to need to be served at that campus. And so one of the things that we can do at a relatively low cost for construction is with how we use our refrigeration and freezers on this campus. And so attachment number 6 shows you what the plan is for the current kitchen. So we would keep the kitchen square footage essentially the same. Inside the kitchen right now, there's a walk-in fridge and other storage. They now make walk-in refrigerators and walk-in freezers that are essentially standalone buildings that can be outdoors. And so what we would do is actually pop a walk-in fridge and a walk-in freezer out the side of the building. They will appear as if they're attached, even though technically they're not. And that almost doubles the size of the kitchen space indoors, allowing us to add more ovens, cooking space, and more counter prep space so that the staff, because we'll have to add more kitchen staff at that school as well, so that they'll have more room and more equipment to be able to make more meals at that campus. This still leaves the space needed for the theater that we hope to put in someday to renovate the multipurpose room and the theater. It does not affect that in any way. This is essentially the same kitchen plan we had with the bond that was coupled with the theater project. Obviously now there won't be the theater project, but we still will do the kitchen. And then the last thing I would like to point out before we get into the cost estimates is if we go back to the first attachment with the site plan, you will notice there's a new driveway and parent drop-off area on the far north side of campus. So as you pull into the main parking lot where the solar panels are, to the right of the multipurpose room, there will be a driveway that will become the parent drop-off and pickup area, and it will connect with the parking lot that sits below the gymnasium and the tennis courts. And so parents will be able to pull in off of Argonaut Lane, pull through that driveway down to the parking lot below the gym and tennis courts, and then they will be able to exit out onto Stony Creek Road, helping to mitigate any traffic issues that we may run into with having more vehicles on that campus each day. And so if I had to summarize, those would be our main projects that we're looking at. We're also looking at moving in some more portables because we do not have enough projected enough money through a loan to be able to build a larger permanent building. We will have serviceable portables from campuses that will be closing, like Jackson Junior and Ione Elementary, and we anticipate moving at least 5 portables to the Argonaut High campus as well, so that we have enough classroom space. And then the last attachment, attachment 7, are the cost estimates. And so you can see that all of those projects are projected to cost the district about $14.6 million to get the high school in the shape it needs to be in to be the consolidated high school. And I am happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I do have a few questions for you, Jared.
Sure.
So with these proposed plans, give me 1 second, I was bringing up my questions. So I guess one of my concerns here is about our gymnasium that would be at the Consolidated High School. Right now, Argonaut has a small gym as it is, and now we're gonna be combining all of our students here at the gym. And I do know that they have a multi-purpose room to be utilized as well, but if we're talking about our school district going into another league for different conferences, things like that, what about sports and different things like that? So I guess I am a little concerned about the size of the gym, and if the bond doesn't pass at some point in the future, what are kind of our plans to make sure that something like that happens?
So we need classroom space first. I agree with you. I'm extremely concerned about having a small gym, but gymnasiums are very expensive. So going back to the cost estimates on the bond, the gymnasium we were hoping to build through the bond, just the gymnasium was going to cost in the neighborhood of $16 to $18 million. And so we need science labs and we need classrooms first. And so this is, you know, we had to prioritize based on the amount of money we're projecting to have. And so that becomes the priority. What will need to happen for athletics, Amador High School is not going away. It will become the junior high. Amador High has great athletic facilities in a lot of areas. It has a larger gym. They have a great varsity baseball field, varsity softball field. We have another football stadium and track. Amador Junior High School, or whatever it's called, will also be an extension of the Consolidated High School for some athletics. It's going to have to be because we won't be able to do everything at the Consolidated High School location. So I hope that answers your question. Probably doesn't alleviate your concern, but if we are able to in the future pass a bond, makes it much easier. If not, then as we get through this phase, then we will start looking at other alternatives to securing more money to see if we can fund a gymnasium or a theater or some of those other things that we need.
Okay. And I guess, like you mentioned, the classroom space is obviously priority number 1. And we talk about bringing in portables, and we're bringing them from other school sites. I've seen the condition that some of the portables at these other school sites are in, and we're talking about bringing them from my own elementary, which we're closing due to the nature of the school site. So I guess one of my other concerns is that we're bringing in portables and all of this, and are we moving students to a better area, or are we just kind of moving one thing to another?
So most of the portables at Ione Elementary will not be moving. I think if we tried to move them, they wouldn't make it the 11 miles to
Well, you said
Argonaut
Ione
High.
Elementary, and I was very
I did, but
concerned
there are
about
two
this.
portables on that campus that were put in 2017. So portable row across the back gets a bad rap, but for good reasoning. So, because those portables are very old, but there are two other portables on that campus that are only 6 years old. So those are portables that we would take a hard look at moving. And then there are some portables at Jackson Junior High that are in very good shape that we would look at moving. We're not going to move our worst portables to the consolidated campus, not at all.
Just double checking.
It's a good question. But if you add those portables, the 5 portables with the 10 classrooms, it increases our overall capacity at the site by about 420 students. And so Argonaut currently has a capacity in the neighborhood of 800 to 900 if you use all the buildings on that campus. And so when you add another 420, then you get right to where we need to be at that 1,250 to 1,300 when it comes to number of students.
So that brings me to my last question, is that does the high school you presented, you just answered my question, have the capacity for all of these students? But now my question is, we just talked about increasing developer fees and those kind of things. Does it have the capacity to also hold students as we grow as a community?
Yeah, that's going to be a challenge. I mean, we're going to have, when we start, to be completely honest, we're probably only going to have a buffer of 1 or 2 classrooms. I mean, and so again, with construction being as expensive as it is and permanent buildings as expensive as they are, we're trying to do the best we can with what we have. But I'm not going to say that we won't have to move more portables. If things don't happen the way we'd like to see them happen in the next couple of years, then we may have to move more portables. We may have to buy new portables. There's a lot of different options you can do there. We will, of course, lean towards being able to build permanent buildings, but that takes a lot of money. And so again, we'll take a look at that, but we'll be very, diligent in terms of making sure we have the capacity to meet the needs of the school. Mm-hmm.
I have a few questions.
Sure.
So we're looking at basically the conceptual plan,
Yes.
and what is the status of, has there been any drawings, like a full set of drawings? Have they been started for this project?
Yes, absolutely.
And what's the status of those?
So the status of those is they're currently with the engineers. We are anticipating the full plans, if the concepts are approved tonight by the board, the full plans to be done in about 2 months. And then we would submit those to the Division of State Architect, DSA, for approval. That will take another 6 to 12 weeks. And then once that happens, we would come back to the board to go out to bid. And we would then try to secure a contractor, anticipated construction starting sometime in the late fall, early winter.
Of 2023?
Mm-hmm.
And then when would be the projected completion?
Fall of '24, we've left ourselves still about a 10-month buffer before we consolidate. So if there are delays in construction, we've built in time to be ready by August of '25.
Okay. Just my opinion, I'm thinking that that's quite an accelerated schedule to hopefully meet those dates.
Yeah, so I mean, we're only building one building. This is not like the plan in the bond where we were going to build 2 massive buildings and renovate locker rooms and renovate a theater. We're building one 10-classroom building on vacant land, so we're not having to tear anything down to construct that building. And so, yeah, this is in consultation with our architect and our construction managers who do this all the time. And so again, yeah, that timelines can be delayed, but that's why we've built in this 10-month buffer to still be able to be done.
What was your ETA again?
Well, construction would begin in late fall, early winter of this year,
And be done,
in fall of '24. Typically, once construction starts on a building like this, you're 8 to 10 months from completion.
And this project also includes the grading, the site work, putting in that road for the drop-off?
Correct.
pickup.
Correct.
so are you thinking having all the students on that campus in August of 2024?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, Right now, if everything goes right, it would be done in September or October of '24, so it'd be after the school year starts anyway. So, and that's if everything goes right. If that ever happens in a construction project, I'll
Hasn't
be
yet.
celebrating. It has not happened yet.
Also, what's the status of the traffic study?
So we need to have these conceptual drawings approved by the board first, because to do a traffic study, you have to show the projected increased capacity of your school. So we have to be able to demonstrate that if these plans are approved, that we're increasing the campus by 15 classrooms, because that becomes a major factor in the study. So if this is approved, that's gonna be one of my next items to start working on, is the traffic study. And it's more than just a traffic study, it's the full CEQA, so it's an environmental impact review and all that goes with it.
And what's the projection for that timeline?
It depends on who we end up working with. I mean, it normally takes a few months. So, I mean, I would anticipate it taking 2 to 4 months to have that done.
Okay.
So Jared, you already mentioned that the amount of study and is based on how many classrooms we're adding, correct?
Yeah, one of the misconceptions that I've heard out there is people think it's based on the projected enrollment. Traffic studies have nothing to do with projected enrollment. They have everything to do with the number of classrooms, your overall building capacity increases. So it's not about Argonaut moving from 550 students to 1,250 students. It's about Argonaut moving from a capacity of 900 students to 1,300, 1,350 students. That's what the traffic study will look at.
So I do have another question.
Sure.
So we're increasing the number of classrooms by about 15, you said, right?
Mhm.
How many classrooms are already on the campus, first of all, and how many of those will be portables after we include those 5 or 6 other ones?
I will have to get back to you with that question, Preston. I don't have that right in front of me.
Okay.
But yeah, we will have, I mean, there's quite a few portables on that campus.
Yeah, I was gonna say with 5 or 6 more, it's quite a few that we,
Correct. That is correct.
yeah. All right, well, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I did have one more question. So when we got all these plans, when the consolidation was going to be happening with, upon the bond passing, we had all of the site plans laid out and we had a timeline for everything and all of these things. Is this something that's going to be, is that something we can also get as far as the other facilities projects? So that we kind of have a broad picture of what
Yeah.
our district and what the direction we're going towards?
Absolutely.
Do you know potentially when we could have those?
I can have a next board meeting.
Yeah, that would be great.
I think just like the rough, like, because we know we have to move the high school students first, but right on the tail of that, like,
Right.
we're gonna be quickly preparing for whatever the next phase is, and I think the community is interested in knowing what those next steps are.
Yeah, our plan is each board meeting, as we have those plans ready, we will bring those as soon as the architects have revised them. I'm pretty sure by the time we have our March 8th meeting, we should be able to bring the rest of the plans back, even if they're a rough estimate, but I think,
For Ione Junior converting to Ionel.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Jacksonville, we no longer need to build.
Nope.
Sutter Creek is completely on hold.
Correct.
And what am I missing?
We will have to do a few smaller projects at Jackson Junior to accommodate the preschoolers that will be moving there. But we're
Yeah,
not
but
gonna be
that's not
adding any
something that-
buildings. It's mostly restroom related.
Yeah.
And our maintenance staff will be doing those projects. We won't be,
So if you can refresh my memory, Jackson Junior is slated for just a preschool
so
complex or TK?
Jackson State Preschool is on the Argonaut High campus. And then the county-wide special education preschool is also on the Argonaut campus. So one of the ways to help build capacity for the high schoolers is those two programs will be moving to the upper campus of Jackson Junior High. So where the current office sits, and then on the other side of the gymnasium, where the new special ed building sits, they will utilize those facilities for those two programs.
But we won't have moved the junior high kids yet.
No, that's all happening at once.
Yeah,
There's no
So the
phase,
timeline will be very helpful.
there's no phased moving. I can tell you that right now. There's
Yeah,
no
there-
phased moving. It's because there's a domino, right? All junior high students go to Amador, all high school go to Argonaut, IONL students go to Ione Junior, and preschool students go from Argonaut to Jackson Junior, right? That, we can't phase that in 1 year at a time. So everybody's moving August of '25.
Yes. Now, Argonaut, though, will have, so I think this is where the confusion's coming. I get it. So what's happening is Argonaut will have phases. Because we eventually need to build a gym. We want to, and it's in some way, form, or fashion, Jared and I will figure it out, but we desperately want a theater. So those are the phases that are gonna happen at that school. Phase 1 is going to ultimately incorporate the building that Jared just presented tonight, the changes to Ione Junior to convert it, anything that we need to do to Amador to get junior high kids there, Jackson Junior, Jackson L. So any site that is going to be touched come August of 2025, that is all phase 1. That's probably makes more sense. Phase 2 then will incorporate any additional building that we're gonna build out on the sites that we have left. Argonaut will be one of them. We might do a little bit more over at the new Ione L. We might do a little bit more at some point in time if we can at Jackson L.
Does Jackson L have room for their sixth graders? To get
will.
their sixth graders
They will.
back?
They will.
So we are gonna have to see, a site plan for Jackson that's happening at the same time.
No, and I'm not gonna go into that tonight, because that involves things that haven't been discussed publicly. But we have a plan so that we do not need to do any building at that site, and we can bring the sixth graders back, and we'll be explaining that in another meeting. But, so phase 1 is anybody who needs to move August of 2025. That's what we're looking at for phase 1.
So I understand all of that. However, I think it's hard to kind of conceptualize all of this when we don't have the plans for all of these moving parts that need to happen going forward. So we're talking about the changes to Argonaut, and those were some pretty massive changes from the plans that we were originally given. So I think that brings a lot of concern in what are the changes being made to, say, Ione Junior High School that is being converted into our elementary school. Are there the same kind of quantity of changes being made there also that we haven't seen yet? And so that all these are moving forward. If this is approved and we're going forward with this basically means the other one needs to go forward. So I am not sure. I feel like being able to see these plans before we really hit the ground running on this is important for me anyways.
Yeah, and I completely understand where you're coming from. So the reason why this is the one plan that we brought forward is because that's the site that needs a traffic study and the CEQA piece. The other sites do not need that. So we had to get that going now because we want that clock to get going because we have a ton of work that needs to get done there. We want to get it done efficiently. Jared, I could have Jared walk you through the difference of, we don't obviously have a picture of it, but he can just walk you through the difference of that building. And then we can bring you the plan. Obviously, the next board meeting, we will definitely bring that for you. That's not a problem.
Well, the other ones are quite simple. Ione Junior
Yeah.
converting to Ione L, if you remember the plans in the bond, there was going to be an 8-classroom preschool TKK building. We're gonna build 2 classrooms, not 8, and that will be for preschool, okay? The majority of the funding for that will actually come out of our extended learning opportunities program money, because those classrooms will also double as the ELP rooms. That building was L-shaped, so the 2 preschool classrooms were the short end of the L. They can still go in the exact same location. If we're able to pass a bond or secure more funding in the future, we can then complete the other 6 classrooms. Everything else going on at Ione Junior would just be bathroom conversions for our youngest students and putting playgrounds in. There's nothing else that we would do at that campus. That campus has a ton of capacity already. So it can take all of the students at Ione Elementary now if we needed to. But again, we're just going to do 2 preschool classrooms and then convert bathrooms and put in playgrounds. And those are really the only things that'll happen on that campus for phase 1.
Okay.
And then like Tori said, We're not prepared to talk about all the reasoning that goes behind it, but we don't anticipate any construction at Jackson Elementary based on how to move the sixth grader, how we're going to move the sixth graders. And then, like I said, for the preschool movement, it's again, just some bathroom conversions for preschoolers, and that's it. You know, without a bond, the level of construction goes way, way down.
The good thing is that we're leaving ourselves in a really great place to do those expansion projects as we're allowed to in the future. And I do believe that down the road, we'll be able to do those. We will definitely make sure that we bring back the other drawings for anything and everything that we have beyond Argonaut at the next meeting. Those are all great questions.
If no one else has any questions, Jared, I just had a couple of comments, actually. First of all, I wanted to point out that at a first glance, when I looked at the locker configuration, it looked like there were not as many lockers on one side as there were on the other. But they are exactly the same, 636 on each side, so congratulations there on achieving some equity, although some of the lockers are bigger in the boys' locker room for football pads. Well done.
Well, thank you. I don't think we deserve a lot of credit. The plans would get rejected if we didn't. So,
Just so you know, I checked.
I know you're very thorough, but yeah, that we can't do it any other way.
Do the showers really go unused?
Yes, 100%.
I am shocked.
I mean, I
'cause
think,
feel
yeah,
like
I
the
think,
football kids all shower after their game.
I think.
No, I mean, you said, are they used? Should they be used? That's a whole different conversation.
I think Preston and Maeve can answer this best, so I'm gonna pass
They
it to them.
both said no right
'Cause
away.
they both play sports, and they can tell us if they get used, ever.
don't think I've ever seen anyone step into those showers before.
Ours don't even have like shower curtains, so I don't think anyone like.
That would change the game, I feel like. Yes, I've in the past maybe, but not since I've been at Amador High School.
Not since I've been at Amador High School either, I don't think.
Okay, so I guess
When I
there's
was in
some
high school,
differences.
yes, everyone showered. There's a difference in generations of
So
us.
I
and
feel
them.
like my older sons always showered like after football games and stuff. Maybe not during the day in school, but
I'm
Okay.
not quite sure about football. Maybe that's questionable. Maybe they do.
This is why we need change
Okay.
here.
The other thing I wanted to point out is that the drop-in place freezers and storage, that those are actually on the backside of that building. If you were like me and you thought, oh, that's where I'm gonna walk, it's not. It's not sticking out in the front, right where the bricks are in the
No, it's
sidewalk.
between the gym and the multipurpose room, yeah.
Yeah, so it's actually tucked out of sight.
Mm-hmm.
Because I forgot how that building was oriented when I saw just the expanded
Gotcha.
kitchen plan. The other question that I had is the 3 portables that are together going in at Argonaut, that seems like they're really close to the other ones.
Yes, that's because they are. They are very close.
Like is,
So we're trying to not encroach on student hangout areas as much. If you space
so
them
that was
out.
exactly my question was, Argonaut has a lot of nooks and crannies, and it looks like we're just making more right there.
Yeah, it's just we could move them farther out, but then you're kind of putting them smack dab in the middle of a hangout area.
Okay.
So, again, the location of those portables is not set in stone, but we just feel like that's the best spot to put them based on how our students are outdoors so much between classes at lunchtime. Even now, like obviously December and a part of January, it was like, well, kids were indoors because it rained so much. But even when it's cold, like if you're on campus these last couple weeks, it's barely rained. Lunchtime, kids are outside. I'm sure Preston and Maeve can attest to that too. Our kids, if they get a chance to have lunch outside, they have lunch outside. So trying not to encroach on that area was one of the priorities with the location of those portables.
I see. Okay, so I definitely look forward to getting the timeline because it is so many moving parts, and I think when we start to see more of the details of what's planned, it basically just gives birth to more questions. Like we start wondering how everything's gonna move at the
Seems to be the nature of consolidation. It gives birth to a lot of questions.
yes, I agree. This was discussion only?
No, it's an action item to approve the conceptual plans.
I have another comment. First off, looking at the title, review and approval of consolidated high school campus expansion plan. Basically, we're looking at concept plans. There's a big difference in my view and in my own background. There's so much that's involved in these plans that I'm not sure my comfort level is where it needs to be to move forward on this right now. And I want to say I am for the expansion. It's troubling that there's 7 slides that I'm looking at that I'm being asked to approve. And I do understand about the CEQA and moving on with the studies, but if the full set of plans are being worked on, again, what was the time frame on that they'd be available?
In the next few months.
Okay. Well, I'll just point out there, I just want to put it out there that my comfort level is not where I want it to be.
So it's not typical for a school board to approve every detail of an architectural plan. It's typical to approve the concept, and then the superintendent and I, working with our architect and our construction managers, go through all the detailed work and get them approved by the state architect. And then the actual approval of the construction of these buildings doesn't happen until the board approves and accepts a bid. And so that's not happening tonight. You're approving the concept so that we can move forward and finalize the plans. Then the board would approve going out to bid to the project. And then after the bid process is done, then the board would approve the awardal of the bid. So this is the first of 3 board approvals for one construction project.
And I might be going back on my own background experience being an engineer where, you know, I'm detailed as far as looking at plans, and so I want to make sure that everything is in front of me when I'm looking to approve it or to get someone to approve it. I want to make sure everything's there. So that could be part of my comment. I guess one thing that I wish this was titled, and this is mainly a public comment, I wish this was titled Campus Expansion Conceptual Plan. Because
okay, we asked I totally understand what you're talking about with verbiage. Our attorney gave us the language to put in this title, so I mean that's again where this came from. But I get when you get into the semantics of expansion versus conceptual. But
because publicly people are going to look at that and say, oh, the board approved these plans, and they're not going to be thinking that it's, you know, architectural renderings that we're looking at.
We could do a, I mean, we can, if there becomes a motion to approve these, we can do a table change for whatever title you want to, I mean, this is, like Jared said, this is just what our attorney asked us to put them. But they are conceptual in nature.
Does that change your expectation of what you're looking at, Shane?
Well, I think not what I'm looking at, but what the public perception is going to be is there's going to be a lot of scrutiny that plans are being approved and no one's really.
Well, based on Jared's explanation, which was helpful, I mean, we're going to see this plan again at least one more time because we're going to have to approve a version of this another 2 times before it actually gets the green light to proceed.
No, I understand. I just want to make sure that it is that the public is going to be aware that this is renderings. We've looked at them. Okay, this is the direction that this phase is going to be, and follow-up is going to be more into the nuts and bolts of the design and the layout and the grading, the fire safety. All these other things are coming. Just they're not part of
So
this?
all of those details will not come to the board for approval because all of those are regulated by the state architect. And so that's where our architect and engineers then have to put, with the concepts approved, then they have to go through all the detail work. And as you know, Shane, being an engineer, the hundreds and hundreds of pages that go with that, that all goes to the state architect for approval, not to the board.
So I should clarify that there's never an expectation that someone who is an elected trustee has the level of knowledge that you have, which we are grateful to be blessed with that professional experience that you have, because it certainly gives us a perspective and an opinion that never even occurred to me. But likewise, the information that is presented to us is not at that level of detail. We are given the, as they like to say, the bird's eye view. You know, we're way up here. It's more, I'm not using the right word, but it's a high level view and approval because that's what is it. That is what they know they're getting.
And I think that I agree with both of you on that you're saying that we're getting a bird's eye view, which in some aspects I do agree. However, I think that we aren't just yet getting a bird's eye view of all of the scope of everything that needs to go on. And when we're talking about families that are watching this and people that will be impacted by this, I think it's important that we are getting the whole picture out to not only just us, but out to everybody. I think this is a huge impact for people, and this is not to say that I don't agree with these plans or the plans going forward. However, I think that having all of the information to be able to see conceptually a bird's eye view of what is going to happen is really kind of imperative in my opinion before moving forward with something.
So the purpose for us bringing this tonight is strictly so that we can move forward with traffic and CEQA study. That is it. Without approval tonight, then that completely goes on hold and we will be behind. I just need the three of you to understand that.
And conceptual plans do not need board approval if you're not going through a CEQA study. We want to bring everything we can to you, but again, this is about the timeline with CEQA because the high school has this extra requirement because of the expansion, so we can get the CEQA process going simultaneously with getting everything prepped for the state architect.
So another way to put that is the other changes that we have planned, they're not ready with those conceptual site plans because this had first priority because of the pending CEQA that we've already been challenged on where is your CEQA. And so we need to get some forward momentum on this portion just because the requirements are different.
We couldn't even bring any of this forward. There's a timeline that has to happen. One thing has to happen and then the next thing has to happen, and then, so we couldn't bring this any faster, unfortunately. And I think Julia just said that perfectly in the sense of this one piece has a timeline that we want to get started on, and then March 8th, we can bring everything at one whole time. But also, like Jared said, a lot of this stuff doesn't even come to the board typically. The only reason this is coming is because we need you to approve the conceptual plan of this so that we can move forward with CEQA and the traffic study.
I just wanted to add a comment to I think what Julia said. I don't have enough time in my day to review a full set of plans for the school because I have enough plans to review, but that's part of my makeup, and I just want to make sure that we are doing everything that needs to be done to make sure that the public is informed and that we get what we want and what needs to be done to help the students.
Yeah, and again, these plans will go out to public bid. So we will have to, once the plans are approved by the state architect, then it goes out to public bid and everybody has the right to see every detail of those plans. We'll do bid walks, hopefully have multiple contractors interested and come, physically come to the site, look at the plans, see what everything entails. Then we do the bid, awarding of the bid, and then the board would approve the acceptance of the bid that fits the requirements.
So I'm actually really grateful that there were so many questions on
Yeah.
this, because there were things that I didn't think to ask. And then we were able to get clarifications that we would have never received if the questions weren't asked the way that they were. So I thank you for being thorough. So, if there are no more questions, is anyone willing to make a motion to approve the conceptual site plan?
I'll motion to approve item number 14.4, review and approval of the consolidated high school campus expansion plan and preliminary cost estimate at Argonaut High School.
Thank you, Preston. Is there a second? I'm going to go ahead and second. I'm going to take a roll call vote. Can I get the advisory vote first? Preston?
Yes.
Maeve?
Yes.
Shane?
Yes.
Kayla?
No.
And I'm a yes. So that does not pass because we need a quorum. Is that correct?
No, your quorum tonight is two of three.
Okay, so it is a split vote?
No, it's a pass.
Right, but we have 2 yeses and 1 no.
Yep.
Okay.
Because your quorum is a 3, then it's the majority of you that are here.
Okay,
Yeah, it makes it a little
Thank
more
you.
confusing. You're welcome, I know.
okay.
Can I ask that a correction be made that this is conceptual, that for,
Yes, Haley,
the
can you just
record.
put that in the minutes for us? That'd be great. Yeah, that's no problem. Thank you.
Okay, 14.5. Requested to dedicate and name the softball field at Independence, Dr. Gibson.
Would you like to come up and say anything, Mrs. Hunkins, since you're here? No, not you, Mr. Hunkins. We already talked to you tonight. Once is enough. Just kidding. I got to talk to you twice today.
Yes, thank you. Board, Gibson, I just want to call you Gibson. I don't know why, like we're hanging out.
It's fine.
Superintendent Gibson, thank you for the opportunity. We have proposed at Independence High School that we name the softball field on that campus after longtime educator Casey Casagrande. He worked for 38 years, not just in the district, but at the same school of Independence High School. And he grew up here. He played baseball here. He coached baseball, coached softball. Played softball way into his later life. So softball was a big, and baseball were big things for him. And so we could think of no better thing to do than to dedicate the field as Casa Grande Field. And so forever, when we have graduations out there and when small kids are playing out there, because they're playing t-ball and so forth, now they can play on Casa Grande Field. So we'd like to bring that forward to you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. If this is approved, we will bring the Casa Grande family in at a later date. Mrs. Hunkins will help us organize that, and we will have a full dedication ceremony for them.
So we do need a motion.
I motion to approve 14.5, requested to dedicate and name the softball field at Independence High School.
Thank you, Shane. And can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Kayla. Roll call vote. The advisory vote first. Preston?
Yes.
Thank you. Maeve?
Yes.
Thank you. Shane?
Yes.
Thank you. Kayla?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes. That is a unanimous vote. And moving on to 14.6, we have board policy updates. Yay. Educational services, Mr. Snyder.
Yes, thank you. This policy, there's just one that I have tonight, the after school, before and after school programs. It's not a new policy for CSBA, but for some reason it had never been part of our policy manual, so it's new to us. That's why there's no colors in here, red or blue like you're used to. And really, again, a lot of this is ramping up for the changes next year with offering it to all unduplicated students. There are new requirements for after-school programs to have an enrichment and an academic program, and so Mrs. Pichette has been busy ramping up our expanded learning and opportunities program all year long, and we'll have additional updates for you as the year progresses and before we get to next year. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I just want to point one quick thing out as we are really working to format our board packets with a lot of consistency, as our team knows. But one of the things is, as we started doing, I think the last couple meetings, you'll see just a quick blurb of each one. As we have new policies, you'll see it's going to say new board policy, clean version only, and that way you'll know not to look for a markup copy.
Okay, did anybody have any questions? And if not, I look for a motion.
Oh, did you have any questions about 6B?
Oh, you want to do them both together?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, unless there's something that you guys want to pull apart. Otherwise, yes, we'll do them together.
Well, let's go ahead and hear from Mr. Moorman about the special education policy updates, and then we'll proceed to discussion.
Thank you for the opportunity. So there is a new law, public local plan for special education policy updated to reflect the new law AB 181 in 2022. So basically what this law tells us is we need to publicize the amount of monies earned through generating it through special education local plan area for different LEAs, and then share with them how much. But we're all one school district, so it's a little, I don't know, it doesn't apply to us, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But if there are any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
If there are no questions or comments, then we can ask for a motion to approve.
I move to approve items 6A and B, board policy updates.
Thank you, Kayla. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Shane. For the advisory vote, Preston?
Yes.
Thank you. Maeve?
Yes.
And Shane?
Yes.
Kayla?
Yes.
I'm also a yes, so that is a unanimous vote. 14.7, a calendar update for the 2022 and 23 school year. Mrs. DeWalt.
All right, so on the pre-updated 22-23 calendar, there were two snow days listed on the calendar. One of them was May 19th. We had to use a snow day on January 9th, so this updated calendar just reflects that we will have school on May 19th now, because we've used that snow day.
And do you need this approved?
Yes, please.
I don't think we've ever approved actually using a snow day before, have we?
You should have.
Okay, all right, anyway, so we need a motion to approve using that snow day on the calendar.
I move to approve the 2022-23 calendar update.
Thank you, Kayla. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Maeve. Advisory vote, Preston?
Yes.
Maeve?
Yes.
Thank you. Shane?
Yes.
Kayla?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes. That is 3-0.
The reason, just so you know, the reason why we have to do the calendar update is by law, we have to be able to show the state when they audit us. If they audit us, excuse me, if or when, usually it's when, what 180 days of the school year we used. That's why. It's actually a Mr. Critchfield department.
Okay. We have another calendar item, 14.8. We have the calendars for the 2024 to 25 and the 2025 to 26 district calendars. Mrs. DeWalt.
All right, the last, I don't know, probably 5 years, we've tried to keep 3 years of calendars on the books at any time. And so we are kind of a year behind. That's why you see two new calendars here. The other thing that you will see that's very different is we've had a lot of feedback over the years that the calendar format we've been using is sometimes very confusing for families because all the information that employees need is crammed in with all the information that families need, and it's a lot. The other thing is we have 10 and 11-month employees, and what their calendar looks like is different than what our 12-month employees' calendar looks like, because 12-month employees work on non-school days if they are not a holiday. And so that's just a little bit of background on why the three calendars look different, but they all have the same 180 school days and the same 12 holidays noted across the board. The other thing that we try to add to just streamline the process is on these calendars, you will note that there is 2 snow days, just like we've been having in the calendar, but then it actually dictates on the calendar which order we will make up the days. So that way we wouldn't necessarily have to bring back the calendar every time, because it's already built into the calendar how they would be made up. So nobody's guessing or anything. Do you have any questions about the calendars? Then we're just asking that you would approve both the 24-25 and the 25-26 school year calendars moving forward.
I just want to thank Jenny and Haley for really making these calendars so that they're more usable for every single person who needs to access our calendar. No matter who you are, you're going to have a calendar that just gives you the information that you need. Jenny's done a wonderful job of really staying on top of this and making this part of our routine. And many thanks to our bargaining units, because this is bargainable. And so she's had to meet with every single bargaining unit to get approval for these prior to tonight.
And you'll see that the presidents of all 4 bargaining unit members signed off on all 4 of these calendars, showing that they've approved them.
You're going to start seeing a lot of signatures on a lot of items, and that's our internal checkoff system that is new.
Okay, if you don't have any questions or comments, we need a motion.
A motion to approve item number 14.8, the district calendars for the next 2 school years.
Thank you, Preston. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Kayla. The advisory vote, Preston?
Yes.
Maeve?
Yes.
Thank you. Shane?
Yes.
Kayla?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. That is a unanimous vote. 14.9, Consolidated Administrative Staff, Mrs. DeWalt.
All right, so as we kind of plan for next year, which we are deep in doing, we also have to think about that through the lens of consolidation that's coming, because there's a lot of moving parts, not just with buildings and facilities, that's Mr. Critchfield's side of the house, but with people. And we are asking the board to approve 2 positions for this upcoming school year to help support in that planning process, but they will be long-term positions. One is the consolidated high school principal position, and the second one is a consolidated district athletic director position. For the consolidated high school principal, there is a lot of planning around aligning classes, aligning content areas, building relationships so we can merge departments, building relationships with students, so we can work towards naming the school, picking out mascots, picking out colors, all of those things. But the other piece to this, which makes having the consolidated high school principal have 2 years before the school actually is the consolidated high school, is we have an opportunity the year before consolidation to do a merged WASC with both of our current high schools, so that way the new high school wouldn't have to go through a WASC process the first year. So that's a big consideration for the 2 years of planning. For the consolidated district athletic director, it's through the lens of consolidation, but also just as I've sat in my role in HR, and we've done a lot of work updating and looking at how we clear coaches and athletes and how we support those athletic programs to make sure we're meeting the letter of the law and making sure we're keeping kids safe. It's there's a lot of undertaking in that, and trying to support the whole athletic system, honestly, 5th grade through high school. This is an imperative piece to that, not just with consolidation. So those are the 2 additional FTE we are asking for.
So just so I have it clear in my mind, we would have a 3rd high school principal that, for a high school that would start in fall of 2025, right? Is
For
that
the next 2 school years, we would essentially have 3 high school principals.
Okay.
2 to do the day-to-day operations of running our current high schools, and then 1 really focused on all the undertakings of consolidating both of those schools. And hiring somebody 1 to 2 years out is very common practice when you are creating a new high school.
So some of the things I can just walk you through, just so you can conceptually see behind the scenes. I think a lot of people are like, well, what is that person gonna do all day? So yes. So let me give you just a quick, I'll try and bring it to like the 10,000 foot view for you. So number 1, we have to do a WASC accreditation. Both high schools are up for accreditation at the same time. That would be in 2024-2025 school year. We have a few options that we could do. One would be that the new high school do an accreditation their first year in existence. We're not doing that. That's just not acceptable. They really need to have a full WASC done prior to consolidation happening. So that needs to take place in 2024-2025. It makes no sense to have both high schools do independent WASC studies.
I'm sorry, Tori, what is WASC?
Oh, sorry. WASC is the accreditation committee, stands for, go ahead, Sean, it's, I'm gonna mess it up,
Western Association of
School and Colleges, there we
Colleges,
go.
yes.
We use so many acronyms, we just know what they mean after a while, and
My head's spinning, so I had to ask.
sorry, no, please always ask us, because we talk in acronym world. Do you want me to explain WASC really quickly? Because it's a whole nother piece.
If you could give me like a
I'm gonna pass this, go ahead, Sean.
cliff note.
Yes, we will.
Well, Mr. Critchfield could probably do it better because he's actually done WASCs, but it's a huge, huge undertaking. It's a self-study of your school, and WASC is the commission that accredits all the high schools in California, and actually, not just California, but other states as well, correct? Colleges, yeah.
Yeah, they bring in a full team of educators from around the state and look at everything you do. You have to prepare what's called a WASC report. That report's typically 50 to 100 pages long, has a lot of data in it, and you spend a lot of time with your staff on, like Sean said, it's a self-study. And so you have to have all that done before they arrive, and then they have reviewed your self-study, and then they come in with a fine-tooth comb.
And grill you.
Visit classrooms, interview parents, interview site council, interview employees, and they want to see how accurate your self-study is. And then they give you an accreditation based on that. And the number of years that you get is kind of like their level of satisfaction. So if you get a 6-year WASC, then they're saying you're doing so well, we're going to leave you alone for 6 years. That's nearly impossible. Our 2 high schools both got a 6-year accreditation, but what is referred to as a 3-year revisit. So then they kind of come back and do a toned down WASC halfway through just to make sure you're still on track with what you said 3 years prior. If you get a 1 year, you're struggling, right? They're like, we're coming back next year and making you redo it. So it's typically a WASC visit lasts between 3 to 4 school days plus a Sunday. Normally the committee arrives on a Sunday, and you do a bunch of meetings into the evening, and then they spend the next 3 to 4 school days, and then that committee will meet after they visit and compile their findings and then give your accreditation.
So our plan is, so if we're gonna backwards map from August to 25, the new consolidated high school would go through their first WASC accreditation to kick off the consolidation piece, probably around April of 2025. Otherwise, both high schools would have to do their own individually, and that just seems like a complete waste of time. So one of the undertakings that the new principal has is both of our high schools have completely different master schedules. They have different courses. They have different course codes. They have different syllabi for courses. What am I missing when it comes to those pieces? The master schedule as a whole has to be completely revamped based on staffing. This person needs to sit down with HR probably for weeks on end to figure out how much staff we have, what their credentials are, what does that look like, where do we place people, how many teachers do we have in each department versus what do we think we're going to need based on master schedule, based on number of students who we think are going to take these courses, which we can do kind of a mock-up of that master schedule. They have to create that mock-up master schedule to even get into HR to start talking about staffing. So that whole component needs to be done. Then we have the whole piece of what happens at both high schools is very different just in the way of staff meetings and culture. So this person needs to be going in and they need to start doing work with every single person on both sites and start bringing together departments. So the math department from both schools needs to be coming together and meeting. The philosophy that they each have may not be the same when it comes to grading, may not be the same in curriculum that's used. There's a lot of facets that happen at a school that create the culture within that school, and this person needs to come in and start creating now this whole other culture as we bring everyone together on day one. That alone is a 2-year task, to be very honest, in an organization that size that we're bringing together. And then we have the student piece, right? We need to start bringing our student leaders together, starting all the way down in the freshman, grades all the way up, and start having those conversations. These two particular individuals will be working on the renaming of the school, the mascot, the school colors. Then we have sports, which is a whole nother level. Then we have uniforms that have to be ordered and swag that needs to be ordered for the new school. We are going to have painting that's going to need to be done and supervised. I mean, this is like a whole job within our current system of job. So it's kind of like we're in the airplane at 30,000 feet and we decide we want to like build a little hangar on the side while we're already up in the air. And that's kind of what we're going to be doing simultaneously at the same time. August of 2025, when the doors open, it has to be perfect. And without having these people in place, all of us have regular jobs in schools that we have to keep functioning every day and doing our regular job. And so we need to pull these people into our team early so that they can be helping us build those systems and working with us, but then going out and doing those tasks. That's kind of the 10,000 foot view. There's probably 10,000 other things that they need to do, but those are the biggies.
One question, is their office going to be at Argonaut, or I guess at the consolidated site?
They'll have workspace at both schools because they'll be bouncing back and forth. We will also find them probably a desk in the hallway, I'm guessing, at the district office because they will also need to be in our building as they're working with all of our departments all the time. So they're going to have multiple work locations. We're basically going to buy them really nice heavy-duty backpacks that they can just be like Meals on Wheels, but they're going to be employees on wheels instead. Yes.
Yes, okay.
So, I mean, I know it seems really early, but the more we talk about it and the more we start outlining all the things that we want to make sure are done and done well, I really want these two people actually, to be able to go in and do a lot of work with our staff so that when everyone moves over, that it is a sense of excitement, there's a sense of belonging, and that we have the same vision and mission moving forward. I think that is the key. I've said this in previous jobs I've had, that walls don't educate children, adults do. And so having those adults all be together for that time makes all the difference in the world. In my previous district, when I did this, it was a much smaller scale. We were moving 7th and 8th graders over to one school site that was already a K through 6 site. But we spent about a little over a school year doing exactly this. And for a system this size, it's definitely a 2-year, especially just CIF alone is a big undertaking.
there any other questions? So I have an observation. I know that we are scrutinized for the cost of, or the proportion of how much of our budget goes to administration versus teachers. And I'm a little bit, I think we're gonna get that criticism on this for 2 years to have a third principal. Aside from that concern, I actually hesitate to put these consolidation specific tasks in the actual job description because they're transitory.
Yes, so once consolidation happens, then the principal converts over. So you'll notice that the blue, those are just items that are part of our current secondary principal job descriptions. So these only apply to that person. Once that position is done, they move into the principal position and then it converts, we'll take all the blue out.
So this job description will come in front of the board again?
No, we already have that, well, part of it will, yes. Because we will redline all of these things that are blue, we will need to redline out because they are situational for 2 years.
I just thought they could be covered under performs other duties as assigned.
Well, they
No?
could,
Is that
but you 100% you are right. I think for us, we wanted to be very transparent when people are applying for the position. This is not a normal principal job. This is somebody that needs to have a special skill set, that they can bring people together, that they are a self-starter, that, most principals are, but still, we wanted to make it very, very clear what our expectations are for this position.
We also want them to stay as just a regular principal, right? Like, that's our expectation? Like, this isn't just, we're only hiring for you these 2 years only?
No, they're gonna open the doors day one. They're gonna put their heart and soul into this baby, and they are gonna cut the ribbon, and away they go day one.
I have to say that my first thought is that it's a 2-year commitment, and someone takes it and they get overwhelmed, and now we're,
we will make sure that doesn't
in the middle
happen.
of the 2-year commitment,
We will make sure that doesn't happen.
So I definitely can see where a consolidated, the district athletic director could actually start, doing that work right away. I don't have the same hesitation with the district AD as I do, I think, for the consolidated principal for 2 years. My comment on the AD though is it didn't go down low enough because it does go down to 5th grade. And it needs to include the elementary in the job description as well, that we expect them to coordinate those schedules.
That will that will happen. Right now, we have those people that are gonna maintain those jobs currently. And then once we go into the consolidation mode, then that person will take over those roles as well, if that makes sense. But we have those people now at the junior highs that help coordinate that for all the way down to 5th grade currently.
Okay. So we're gonna continue to pay AD stipends for junior high
Yes.
while we have a full-time district athletic director.
I think some of that we have to negotiate with the bargaining units because those junior high and the junior high AD positions are in the active contract. So some of it has to be negotiated, and part of it is because for the next 2 years, there's so much extra work that needs to be done getting ready for the consolidated high school. It's like a whole other layer of their job, which is all those extra, while we're planning for consolidation, all those components in the job descriptions are like extra work. So that way in 2 years, in August of 2025, and we take off all of those while we're consolidating job description language off the job description, then it like frees up time in their day to then we can then look at all of the ADs in the district and what is really needed moving forward. And just, Julia, you mentioned, like you were just concerned about how this looks, how much we pay. And just so you know, I try and give lots of heads up to all of our bargaining units anytime something could impact them. So I have mentioned this to them. And I haven't gotten any negative feedback from any employee that's heard this was gonna be on the board packet that that they had that concern, just so you know.
So just to clarify, we're gonna continue paying AD stipends at all levels while we have or no, because it hasn't been negotiated yet, or has it?
It has not been negotiated yet.
Yeah, Jared, how much are those stipends?
The high school ADs, it varies because it's based on the AD's salary. It's 8% of their salary. The junior highs, I'll have to look it up. It's a fixed stipend. It's like a couple $1,000. I mean, we're probably, if I just had to like estimate, total cost of all those stipends is probably less than $25,000 a year.
But we will be paying both until it's negotiated.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that we'll necessarily pay, let's say, the AD for 2 years. We can work to consolidate that sooner. We just don't know for sure. We just know that we need a full 2 years because it's not, like Jenny said, it's not just about buildings. That's I mean, as crazy as that sounds, that's actually the easy part of this.
When will this be advertised? Or when are you going to start seeking candidates?
If it's approved tonight, we are ready to post it tomorrow.
And then you're hoping to have someone on board beginning?
They would start July 1, technically. This is hiring season right now, so if we don't get it posted soon, February, March are heavy-duty hiring season for administrators. And so this is the time, which is why we're trying to get ahead of it. Historically, in Amador, prior to 18 months ago, I think we usually post administrator openings like in June. So we're trying to really get ahead of that. We posted, I don't even know how many administrators we hired last year, you guys. How many was it? 10? 8, 9, 10? And we had everybody hired, I think, by the end of April last year, for the most part. So this is the season, but we have the post ready in hopes that the board would approve it so that our staff in the morning can hit go. We have people who know that hopefully these are going to be approved, and they are hoping so that they can hit submit on their applications. And we do have board members, or a board member who sits on those particular interviews.
So if there are no additional questions or comments, we're ready for a motion. And so this motion will be for all 5 parts?
If that's how the motion is made, yes.
I move to approve item number 9, consolidated administrative staff.
A through E?
A through E.
Thank you, Kayla.
I second.
So we have a motion by Kayla and a second by Preston. I will call for the advisory vote. Preston?
Yes.
Maeve?
Yes.
Thank you. Shane?
Yes.
Kayla?
Yes.
And I'm a no. Moving on to 14.10, MTSS stipend opportunity for employees. We have 2 opportunities. We have ACTA and CSEA. Mrs. DeWalt?
Really quickly, I just want to remind you that 10B is pending ratification.
Thank you.
All right, ACUSD was granted 2 identical scaling up multi-tiered system of support grants. These are designed to help provide professional development opportunities for all employees. So outside of COVID, this is the only time in my experience in 22 years in Amador County Schools where we've been able to offer the same stipend opportunity to all employees across the board. And so I think that's very exciting. It's an opportunity for 265 employees, whether they're classified or certificated, to sign up to do some extended professional learning around MTSS. It's a system where we can kind of target needs for students and then provide targeted support to help all students be successful. And so even though when you think about that, a lot of us think of teachers, a lot of our classified staff have direct impact on on student success also. And so this is an opportunity for them as well. You'll notice whether it's ACTA or CSEA 239, which is our classified staff, the stipend is identical for all employees. So the opportunity to earn the $1,200 stipend is the same across the board.
Jenny, isn't the time commitment the same?
Yes, we're asking the exact same work, whether you're a classroom aide or a teacher or a bus driver. So whoever signs up, it would be the same dollar amount stipend.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, if there are no questions, we're ready for a motion to approve.
I motion to approve item 14.10, MTSS stipend opportunity for employees.
I'll second.
Thank you, Shane and Maeve. And the advisory vote, Preston?
Yes.
Maeve?
Yes.
Thank you. Shane?
Yes.
Kayla?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes. That is a unanimous vote. 1411, 1 FTE, Special Education Technician, Mrs. DeWalt and Dr. Gibson.
All right, so this is a little bit interesting because it kind of impacts the county side and the district side. But currently there is a County Superintendent Administrative Assistant 6 position on the county side. And a decision's been made to eliminate that as of July 1st, 2023. And really looking at the needs in our special ed department, what we feel like we need to do is then kind of shift those efforts and funds to support a district special education technician position. We already have one in the district, but really it would be an additional person to help support navigating the online system that manages all of our IEPs. It's a very, it's very complicated. That information is all shared with the state, so it's very technical. And so this position would help ensure that we can kind of meet those IEP data needs across the district.
I just want to clarify that the person in this current position has not been sitting and serving as my administrative assistant. So I didn't want people to think that I have had two, because nope, that's not the case. This person's actually been sitting in the special education department, serving as essentially more like a Jenny and Roy, like a 2, like an administrative assistant 2-ish type job.
In addition, she's been entering data into SACE and pulling records and.
Yeah, good point. So she's been doing just kind of a lot of things on the county side for the special education piece. But I had discussed that come July 1 of 2023 that this position would be eliminated. So it's not any shock to anyone. Everyone knew quite some time ago that this was going to happen. It's a compliance piece too, because you can't have anybody sitting in a confidential position that doesn't do certain things, and that's by law.
So this is a district position that will be funded by the county?
It will be funded by the district, but let's keep in mind that all students are district students first. And so that's the reasoning behind it being a district position funded by the district. Essentially, instead of the 2 special ed technician positions that would exist if this is approved, because we already have one, would just essentially split
the alphabet
so that they'd be in charge of roughly 400 IEPs.
So basically what'll happen is the district will bill the county for the position, which is how a single works. It doesn't really matter which site it sits on. It's a matter of, and it doesn't really matter who pays for it, because all eventually, Mr. Critchfield just starts funneling money back and forth so that depending on which side of the house it's on. So it really doesn't matter. We opted to put this over on the district side so that it's consistent. We want to have some cross training without our current, the position that we currently have that's the same thing as new. We created it, last year sometime after I got here, we created it, and it has been instrumental. But it's too much. It's 800 students that they oversee. It's a lot.
Okay. Did anyone have any questions or clarifications they needed? All right, we're ready for a motion.
I move to approve item 14.11, full-time special education technician.
I second.
Thank you, Kayla and Preston. And the advisory vote, Preston?
Yes.
Maeve?
Yes.
Thank you, Shane?
Yes.
Kayla?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. 14.12, MOU with ACTA regarding stipend pay.
Sorry, you have to listen to me again. Around late September, it was brought to our attention that there's some contract language in the ACTA contract 14.3.3 that talks about stipends, except for two par stipends that don't really exist anymore, and the ag incentive stipend would be adjusted whenever there's a raise. And through some research and things, we realized working with ACTA that had not been happening for quite a while. And so we worked with them very collaboratively to come to this agreement to kind of correct that. So what you will see is that there will be some retro pays for the 21-22 school year, and then for the 22-23 school year, some adjustments and retro pay for the people who've received stipends. So that's what this MOU is resolving.
So you're cutting checks for retro?
Yes.
How far back?
For last school year and this school year, which is where that $213,228.46 comes from.
Okay.
And then what you'll see at the next board meeting is actually the updated salary schedules across the board that impact stipends for ACTA, to kind of show what the new stipend amounts would be based on this MOU.
Are there any questions? Okay, then we're ready for a motion to approve.
I motion to approve item 14.12, MOU with ACTA regarding stipend pay.
I'll second.
Thank you, Kayla and Maeve. The advisory vote, Preston?
Yes.
Maeve?
Yes.
Thank you. Shane?
Yes.
Kayla?
Yes.
I'm also a yes.
Thank you. These are the little things along the way that we are cleaning up that just have fallen to the wayside.
Thank you. I noticed that the ag stipend is accepted from that, is not part of that. Is that because it is different somehow?
It's paid out of the ag incentive grant, which is state money. So that allotment has been set that way for a long time because it's connected to that state grant.
So it's set by the state?
No, it's not set by the state, but that dollar amounts remain flat for a long time in the ag incentive grant.
Oh.
They're putting all the money into CTE now, so it can be used on ag, but just the ag incentive grant itself has remained pretty flat.
All right. Thank you. 1413, MOU CSEA regarding Article 416, paid release time for paraeducator conference. Mrs. DeWalt.
Just to kind of reiterate, this is one pending ratification by CSEA 239, but this gives, this acknowledges how important it is to provide professional development to our employees, and the contract allows for two classified staff to be able to go to this conference, and what this MOU allows for is up to 5 employees. And the way the contract is written, I think it was for 1 day, and the conference really lasts for 3 days. So this is us being able to pay for the conference fee, and then allow those employees to up to 5 employees to go to the conference and not have to use any of their sick time to go. Okay. And our classified staff ask frequently for opportunities for professional development. So this is a great opportunity and a really good conference from everything I've ever heard. Yep.
Okay. I guess I'm just pausing because we don't see, are there MOUs for teachers who go to conferences? And, I mean, is this like normal standard operating procedure?
Because this is actually written into their contract, an opportunity to go to this, the MOU just expands an opportunity that's in their contract. So instead of 2 employees, it's allowing for 5.
So it is a little bit odd that it's in the contract.
I don't know that it's odd that it's in the contract, but there's no there's nothing like this in a teacher's contract that we have.
Right.
So that's why you wouldn't see it.
Yeah, I've never seen any of this language in a contract, but
Okay.
we have lots of things in our contracts I haven't seen before, so it's okay.
I mean,
We just follow along.
okay.
Yeah, we just check the boxes, right, Amy? Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. Anyone have any other questions? All right, a motion to approve our last discussion action item, please.
I motion to approve item 14 -13 MOU for CSEA 239 regarding Article 416, paid release time for educator conference.
And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Shane. Advisory vote. Preston?
Yes.
Thank you. Maeve?
Yes.
Thank you. Shane?
Yes.
Kayla?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. That is unanimous. And thank you. We are done with discussion action items and moving on to reports. Dr. Gibson?
Pull up my sticky note on my computer here. Hold on, give me 1 second. Sorry. Let's see. I was going to comment about KVGC, but you already took care of that, so thank you. Just looking out in the coming months, we're going to blink and it's going to be May, and then we're going to blink and we're going to be back in the summer. Not that that's a bad thing, but it's going to go quickly. So we are in the process of planning for strategic planning for year 2 of strategic planning. That'll happen in late April. We are going to do a similar plan as we did last year. It's going to be the same team for the most part coming back. We're going to do another 1-year cycle. We have a team of a district office leadership team group that has been pulling the West Ed apart. We are going to be presenting that. We will have that for the board shortly as well. That will include timelines and to-do lists. And I think when people see the work that has been done with that, it's pretty mind-blowing, actually. And so that will kick off that strategic planning piece. We will have, for our new board members, last year we had individuals from the strategic plan come and do a full presentation to the board on our focus areas for the next year. So we'll have that happen again, and everything will revolve around these themes also that we have. So that's what we're working on over the spring, as well as I said earlier, it's recruitment season. Mrs. DeWalt and her staff have put together a job fair for April the 1st. Is that right, Jenny? April 1st, and we'll have all kinds of banners and signs and publicity thanks to Haley. We're so grateful for Haley. I'm not quite sure how we survived without her in this new position. Sorry, Jared. So those are just the kind of big picture things that we're working on right now, and there's a lot that's going to be coming down the pipe that's very, very exciting. I think we're finally making some progress, and it's kind of like we're on the Titanic and we're trying to turn it around and make some movement going the other direction, and we finally start to see the ship slowing down a little bit, and that's what we need to do to turn it around. So I'm really excited for this spring, and we'll have some great things planned over the summer to kick off for next fall, and that's where our minds are right now.
Thank you, Dr. Gibson.
And I didn't talk about any exciting sports things because I didn't want to take away anyone's thunder down there. So I just want to acknowledge that I know it's happening with our sports teams. I just don't talk about it because I don't want to give up your guys' stuff.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that.
You better know.
Yeah. Am I next?
You can go next.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, so sports, we're kind of in the transition phase of sports right now, moving from winter sports into spring sports. So there's quite a few teams on the fields, track running around, soccer and softball and baseball and everything happening at once. So, boys soccer, I had my last ever soccer practice tonight. That was interesting. But we did beat Argonaut last night. That was awesome. And we will beat them again tomorrow. Yeah, so our girls are going to playoffs. We, varsity boys, came very close. We are going against Calaveras, but Calaveras beat us, unfortunately. So they will be going to playoffs instead. Wrestling has been great, though, at Amador High School. We just had the league championship at our high school last Friday, I believe. And our league champion of Amador High School is Anthony Baldenegro. He won the entire thing, and he's moving on to Masters, I believe it's called. He may correct me if I'm wrong. By the way, back there, Morgan's doing a great job. He's a junior at Amador High School, so wanted to point that out. Yeah, with KVGC. Yeah, basketball is winding down. Ski and snowboard is about to wind down here in a month or so. They're still going a little bit, but that's quite a long thing, and it's very fun. But I haven't seen you guys in a little bit. I've been pretty busy personally myself with colleges and such. So there's quite a lot to report. I'll try to make it quicker. Winter homecoming was a blast. It was great. Every dance at Amador High School has been great so far. It seems like more than half the school attends those, which is awesome. For drama, we just had the Linnea Festival that they go to down in Folsom Lake College, I believe. And we, quite a few people at Amador High School did really great and moved on pretty far. Actually, board member Marzano, his son, Jimmy Marzano, moved on the farthest, I believe, in the competition and did very well. And currently, ASB's done a lot. We just had the 8th grade preview day, kind of pre-orientation. That was a blast. I had fun. I toured around a group of little 8th graders, and I'm sure they thought I was very cheesy. But it was great. And it was kind of a time for me to sit back and realize how much, because all the other programs at our school, like FFA and drama and AVID and all that, is put on by other seniors or juniors or leadership, and was a great time for me to reflect on how much time they put into these things, and how much they've grown as individuals as well. So that was very great to see. And yeah, right now we have you'll hear me more talk about our prom coming up. Prom planning is underway. Senior trips, senior graduation planning is actually starting to happen, which is crazy. And yeah, spring sports starting to come about: track, tennis, softball, baseball, all those. And one kind of out of the blue type thing that I just remembered, because I can't remember everything sometimes, is at Amador High School we used to do some like the academic decathlon and stuff like that, and we still are not going to, we haven't participated in that in a long time, but we are doing other challenges like that kind of go under, not seen. So one thing that 4 of our seniors at Amador High School just are planning for and doing training for, basically, is it's called the M3 Challenge. It's a statewide math competition, basically, and it's very competitive and involves a lot of technical online work, and you have to know a lot of math, so that's interesting as well. And there's a forestry challenge that was put on a couple months ago, and we just do all these different things outside of what is on the eye level of what happens at Amador High School. So it's great. We're having a good time so far. Yeah.
Thank you, Preston. Maeve?
Yeah, I have just a lot of the same things Preston was saying. So I think it was the 26th, like last Thursday, we also had our preview day. So a couple of us actually went to the junior highs and rode up on the buses with like the 8th graders. So we played like Simon Says, a bunch of different games. So that was pretty cool. And then we showed them around the campus so they could kind of get an idea of what classes they are interested in taking next year, like especially the elective classes. And then at lunch we had like a big barbecue for them. So it was kind of like a good intro to like what high school is like, because they're able to like hang out with all the other high school students eating lunch. So that was really cool. And then that evening we had Argonaut 101. So all like the different departments had a table, and like a couple different sports teams had tables, so that then parents can come and like kind of talk to teachers and see like what their classes are like. And we had a pretty good turnout, so that went really well. And then last week was big game week for basketball. So we had the basketball big game at Argonaut this time, and we won both varsity basketball games. So that was really fun. I think three of our sports teams are going to playoffs. So we have both of our basketball teams, and then girls soccer, who beat Amador last night. So that's really cool. And then on Saturday we had our winter homecoming dance at the Sutter Creek Auditorium. And that dance is like kind of to highlight like the underclassmen, because we do like the prom and the homecoming in the fall, which is for upperclassmen. And so for this dance we have like an underclassmen homecoming court. So like they have like all these court pairs, and then they vote for their winners. So Clayton and Yuri were like our winter homecoming court. So that was really fun. And then like Preston said, we had a couple drama kids go to the Linnea Festival in Folsom, and I talked to a couple of them, and they said they had a really good time. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Maeve. Shane, did you have a board report?
I just wanted to point out February 19th through February 25th is National Engineers Week. And so I wanted to put it out there that any of the teachers out there that are doing any events or any contests, send me an invite. I'd love to attend.
Thank you. Kayla?
I do not have a report this time.
Okay. I have a report. I went to the Amador County Ag Boosters crab feed. It was a packed house on Saturday. I don't know how much they raised, but they always do really well. And I was surprised at how many people actually were there, given that there were 3 crab feeds in 2 days in this county. So if you're wondering if things are back open fully, they are. Fundraising is in full swing, every organization in the county. So I had a brief conversation with board members at one of our special meetings that we've had since the last regular meeting, because one of the absolute top highlights of being a trustee is being able to shake hands with the students at graduation. It is my absolute favorite thing. And now that we have staggered the graduation ceremony times, it is technically possible to be at both schools for high school graduation. And I look forward to seeing both ceremonies for the first time ever, since I've been in Amador County. So that is the end of my report.
Sorry, I'd just like to mention one additional thing. I meant to say this at the beginning, but this is also National School Counseling Week, School Counselors Week, and I sent an email out this afternoon to all email users, but I just wanted to acknowledge the outstanding work our school counselors do every day to support not only academic needs at the high school level, but the social emotional needs that are just so significant now more than ever. So thanks to our school counselors.
Thank you for that add-on, very important. If there are no other additional comments.
I have to add one, just because my wife was up front earlier. If you get a chance, visit her classroom. It's a state-of-the-art, and I was the interior decorator.
Her classroom is fabulous, now I know. I gave her all the credit, now I know.
Thank you, Shane. So with that, we are adjourned It is 9:20. Our next regular meeting will be Wednesday, March 8th, tentatively scheduled to be held here at the County Administration Building. Open session will start at 6:30. Thank you very much. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll begin the County Office of Ed meeting.